Welcome back to another video, and today we are kicking off a brand new series on this channel called Navigating the Middle Game. That's right, I am going to do my best to teach you how to navigate and develop plans during the middle game. So like you have a position like this, like what should be your thought process? There's no immediate tactics. Well, there is when I blender the next move, but there's no immediate tactics in this position. Like, how do you go about playing this? What about a position such as this one? What about a position such as this one? All these positions get really complicated, and we just don't have unlimited time to calculate everything. So, how do we go about developing these planes in the middle game and navigating this? Well, I have designed this 5-part video series to just kind of build on itself. And so it's all around imbalances. So this first video is intro and identifying imbalances. Next, we're going to talk about some common imbalances and how to, and like some of the motifs and themes behind these. Then we're going to talk about how to develop a long-term plan. Then we're going to talk about how to create counterplay. And then lastly, we're going to have some exercises that we can all participate in. And you, that's right, you, the viewer, can help me with this. If you have any games or positions where you had no idea how to navigate in the middle game, you can send that over to me at chesswithkess@gmail.com. And because I could always use some more material, especially for some of these exercises. So, without further ado, let's begin. Uh, an imbalance, by definition, this isn't the official definition, this is my definition, is any inequality between the two positions. And there's a couple main categories, I would say: king safety, piece activity, material, and space slash pawn structure. Okay, I would say those are the four main imbalances, and there's some other ones, but just for this intro, we're just gonna go with those four. So king safety, obviously, like, super important because the king is the most important piece on the board. Um, king safety is really important, and a lot of tactics can happen if the king is unsafe. Um, and I guess another imbalance is tempo, but that's like kind of down the road. Um, and like it's not like a long-term thing, but we'll touch on that uh, in a future video. Another imbalance is piece activity. So how well can your pieces influence other areas of the board? So this bishop, this rook, and this rook are not active at all. This queen is decently active. This knight is decently active, right? The knight can control all of these squares. This bishop is pretty active. This bishop is not. This rook, uh, are not active at all. This rook is like kind of getting there, right? It's at least doing something, defending the bishop, and the queen's not really active. All it's doing is defending the pawn and the bishop. So like that's just piece activity. It's just like all the areas of the game that your pieces can influence. And then material. This just doesn't have to be like, oh, a side is up a rook or a side is up the exchange or up a pawn or anything like that. It's also about the quality of material. So, like, this bishop right now is a bad bishop. It's not doing anything. Um, this knight, like, it's a stronger knight, right? This knight is more valuable than this bishop at this point because of that activity. And also, um, some other, like, you can have equal material, but they can be imbalanced, such as a rook and a pawn versus a knight and a bishop, or two bishops versus two knights, and such like that. Um, Two rooks versus a queen and a pawn, like anything like that. Like, those are all equal material value, but they are um, they are very different. So, and the last one is space slash pawn structure. Space is basically all the places you can move your pieces without them just getting instantly taken. And the space on the board is determined by the pawn structure. So in this position, we have a pretty even board in terms of space. And then the pawn structure, there's a couple elements to pawn structure. One of them is weak pawns. So any pawns that are doubled are way weaker. Any pawns that are isolated are weaker. Any pawns that are backward are weaker. So if white were to move this pawn up here, pawn to c4, now this pawn is, well, that's the best move actually, but now this pawn is backward because it can't get pushed up without just getting taken by another pawn. Um, so even though this is the best move, it does create a backward pawn. But I just wanted to show that for the illustration. So I'm going to look at those other two positions. We're going to look at the imbalances there with those four categories that I said. And then just as like kind of an intro and kind of get your mind thinking. And then the next video, we're going to talk about some common imbalances and some themes behind those imbalances. So in this position, what are the imbalances? Well, first, king safety. Both kings are pretty safe here. Not much more to be said there. Piece activity. I would say white is ahead in piece activity. These pieces are active. This knight is somewhat active. This queen can get active really easily. Neither of these rooks are active. And then for black, the bishop's active. This bishop, it's not really, it doesn't really have good scope. Doesn't have a lot of good places to go. This knight's all right. This is a good position for the knight. Queen's not really active. It's not doing anything. This rook isn't doing anything, and this rook's defending this pawn. So that's the piece activity. Material on the board is equal in terms of value, but black has the bishop pair, and white does not. White has two knights and a bishop versus two bishops and a knight. And we'll talk about that during the common themes. And then space, white is very much ahead on space. White is really constricting black's movement. I'm black in this game, by the way. White is really constricting black's movement. And then pawn structure. Oh, another thing about pawn structure I forgot to mention is pawn islands. Usually, pawn islands are just like just pawns that are like all grouped together in a blob. So white has one pawn island right here and one pawn island right here, and then black has one pawn island right here and one right here. So having fewer pawn islands is better almost all the time. So the pawn structure, white and space, white is doing way better in that. This pawn could potentially get weak. And then if you push it up to strengthen it, then this pawn gets weak. Black over here, this isolated pawn is a long-term weakness. Black's getting ready to chip away at the structure and create some more space, but we'll talk about that in future videos. So yeah. Let's look at this last example right here. So king safety. Black's king is super open. So if this area of the board opens up, then black's king is going to be pretty unsafe. White's king is slightly safer, but black is like marching forward. So both kings are not very safe. Material. White's got the bishop pair, and black does not. Material value is equal. And then piece activity. This rook is pretty active. This rook, once the knight moves, is going to be pretty active. This bishop is not active at all. This bishop's not active at all. This bishop is basically just serving the role of a pawn here. And these knights, they're decent. They could get in the game somehow, but in closed positions, it's hard to get a lot of activity. And these rooks are reinforcing these pawns. So for a kingside push, they're reinforcing. Queen is not in the greatest position on the planet, but it's decent. So and then space, obviously, black is dominating in space. Black is just absolutely dominating in the space department, and white's position is super cramped. And the pawn structure, black's pawn structure is actually pretty strong. These pawns are pretty hard for white to actually target. And then white's pawn structure, it's solid. This pawn right here could potentially be a problem. And this pawn as it's backward, um, but it's pretty well defended. And then this like kind of weird staggered formation isn't the best. But yeah, so that's been 10 minutes. I just wanted to go through those positions and talk about um, the imbalances there and kind of how you should think about these middle games. And then we're going to use that as a foundation to talk about some common imbalances in the next video and some themes behind them. So, see you then.